Hello, St. Thomas Academy, and welcome to Season 3 of the Cadet Football Show. I'm your host, Mike Maxwell, and to my left is our new head football coach, Travis Walch. Coach, welcome to the show, and more importantly, welcome to St. Thomas Academy.
Thank you. It's been a great process from the start. Interview through where we're standing right now. It's went quick, but really enjoyed it so far.
Good. Now, Coach, I've been told that your football IQ is way up here, so you got to be gentle on me this year, and you may have to dumb it down just a bit from time to time.
Well, that's a compliment to all the people I've coached with and my family and everyone else, so thank you for that.
You're welcome. So Coach Walch and I are excited to keep you up to date on all things cadet football. We're looking to add a few wrinkles this year and hopefully make the show just a little bit more enjoyable. So, Coach, before we officially introduce you to the STA community, tell us what is happening on the field behind us here at Jerry Brown Stadium.
Yeah, this morning we have we're hosting a youth football camp. The organization is called Faith in Football. Matt Burke heads it. He reached out to us and said, "Hey, we're going to be on the St. Thomas Academy campus, and would you be willing, with your football players and some of your coaches, to run a youth football camp for them?" So that's what we're doing in the background here. It's been great.
Okay.
We're going to spend about an hour and a half with these kids, and then they have a faith-based part of it, and they've got some other things that Matt does with them throughout the day. So we're excited and grateful for that partnership.
Great. Well, maybe there's a couple of guys on this field right now that will be playing on Friday nights for you someday too.
Absolutely, and that's why we welcome him,
right.
No doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right. So, Coach, let's talk about you for a little bit. Let's go back to the beginning. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in a small town down by Rochester, Minnesota called Elgin. Elgin Millville was the high school.
Okay.
Tiny little farm community, and mom and dad were either farming, or mom and dad were working at IBM or Mayo Clinic in Rochester, and that's kind of how it worked there. Graduated with 28 kids, so every opportunity was at my doorstep. I wish there was more of that, and that's really what we're trying to encourage here is play everything you can. Be involved in theater, all that. I had all those opportunities. I was grateful for it. So grew up there, went to Winona State, and worked on education degrees, played football, and then got into the coaching network.
Great. Okay. All right. So I understand you have a bit of a connection to both the STA community as well as the visitation community.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
There's really three prongs to it. One, as I was looking at the job, very thankful. My wife's side, the Pupor family had a son go through STA, 3 daughters. My wife and her 2 sisters went through visitation. So that viewpoint I remember talking at the interview, they said, "Why STA?" I said, "I think about my wife and her friends and their connections through these 2 schools, and I think of long-lasting relationships, and I think of success." Those are the 2 things that really stand out to me. But the other side of it, as a recruiter, I was in this school recruiting for 25 years at the University of St. Thomas, got to know Coach Z. There's that side of it. And then, on the other side of it, I just looked at this place from afar and said, there's always been, to me, this institution within the institution that would serve football and serve growth well. And those were the things that really drew me in.
Got it. That's awesome. So family, you're obviously married, kids, anything like that?
Yes, we have, my wife and I, we live on White Bear Lake. We have 3 daughters, 7, 5, and 3. They're really excited. Most of them don't remember Dad being in football.
Okay.
They're excited. They came to, we had a summer practice they got to attend, and just for them to be out on the field is another reason why we did this, why we got back in, is for our girls to grow up and be a part of a team and understand the highs of that, the lows of that, and everything in between. So that part of it's been great. Renata's 7, Rosalind is 5, and Mart is 3. And then my wife Kiersey, as we talked about, was a Viz grad here in 2002.
Great. Well, you and I have a little more in common than we might have known originally. I also married a Viz gal and had 3 daughters. So we'll have lots to talk about. So that's awesome. So what were you doing before you came to STA?
Yeah, so really long story short, I'm coaching college football. My wife's working at the Attorney General's office. At times she had to be in court and was really busy, and I had to be on the football field. And that worked fine before you have kids, but then the kids came along. Got out of it, and I started consulting. So I was at 50 different high schools over the last 4 years, and my job would be go on site for a week, watch everything they do or they don't do, report back to them. And in the process, having never coached high school football, I got to see high school football at Ground Zero and everything involved with it. So that's how I made my living. We ran a lot of youth camps. I spent 3.5 years growing out new ways to gamify football, make it fun in the way that we drill, small-sided, just like a lot of the other sports do. We just wanted to take it to football. So that's what I did. And then this opportunity came up, mainly, I'm very thankful to my wife. She got a job that was fully remote, and it opened the door for this to happen. And
so had you been looking to move into a high school program, or was this just serendipity?
Well, probably 2 to 3 programs in this state where I'd actually say I'd really want to investigate it and go for it. This just happened to be one of it. And the other thing I failed to mention before was it's not just my wife being here, me recruiting here, but to develop relationships with a number of St. Thomas Academy families by being at St. Thomas and those kids and those families coming there. That was the other side of it, besides Coach Z and that relationship, that really made me feel like this is a community that would be good for me, good for our family.
Awesome. So you're following in the footsteps of some legendary coaches. You know, the names that pop out to me: McMahon, Ridley, Brown, Slater. I mentioned Coach Z, Dave Zebarth, and of course most recently Dan O'Brien. Does that add any pressure to the job?
No. I worked for Glenn Caruso. He won 90% of his football games throughout the years, and the day-to-day is what you realize. It really isn't about wins are a byproduct of what we do either really well, and losses are a byproduct of how teams were able to expose what we don't do well. Right. I'm thankful that 4 of the names on there, Coach O'Brien I've known since he was at Concordia St. Paul years ago as an athletic director. I was a young coach at Winona State. Coach Z, the connection. I've since now been able to meet Coach Brown. I've known Coach Slater now for probably about 8 to 10 years. So good guiding force for me was, can I uphold what they're doing? I want to. That's a challenge that I'm holding myself because I know what those guys have done for this place. So yeah, challenge, but and I'm ready for it. But more than anything, pressure, no. I'm going to be who I am and who we need to be, and just try to grow this thing a little bit more on a weekly basis.
That's awesome. So you were hired in May. Other than you're probably drinking from a fire hose a bit. What are the things that you've needed to do to prepare for both summer workouts and then of course the upcoming season?
Number one thing will always be people, right? The first thing you do is you come in and you say, okay, there's 25 guys on your staff, 6th grade through 12th grade. How do you start filtering through that group? Do they even want to be involved with what your vision is? Right. As you sit down and interview, and what I realized right away was like, man, we have a lot of really dedicated teachers in the building. You can't ask for anything more than that. There's a lot of people that aren't teachers in the building that wanted to help coach football. So the base was there. We didn't have to make a lot of change. Did bring in about 7 to 8 coaches that I just knew through years of coaching college football, or contacts that I had when I was out recruiting, that I thought we can't be exactly who we were last year. I love who this team was across the board. But we did have to bring in some other things that we thought were just true to what I know and what I believe. And having 7 or 8 guys that can just do that because they've been involved in those type of practices and programs was really, really important to being where we had to be in the summer. Summer was all about, can we practice the right way? Can we talk and communicate with this new language that we're asking all of our kids and our coaches to really have to do? So people was goal number 1, and I feel really good about the people that we have with our team right now.
Great, that's awesome. So the football program's coming off of a pretty successful season, 10-1. Knocked out of the playoffs a little earlier than they were hoping for. That team had 36 seniors on it. And while your offense is pretty well intact, or at least from what you had last year, most of your defense was lost to graduation. Mm-hmm. So in a defense, by the way, that was arguably one of the best. I won't say the best because that'll draw some fire right there. But one of the best that we've seen in a long time. What's the process that you and your staff have gone through or are going through to rebuild that defense?
So I'm going to touch on the first thing. You said a good year last year. Like, I look at this program and say it's been a good 50 years, right? I mean, it's been...
Absolutely. Yeah.
I don't know the winning percentage in my mind. I just say 85, 90%. I mean, it's what it's been. And I love that part of it. From a defensive perspective, we every year are going to have to do this. I remember when we were at the University of St. Thomas, and our season would get over, and we had this magnet board, all the seniors, all the juniors, and sophomores. And Coach Caruso at the time would take that magnet one at a time, go boop, and you're just watching 5 years and 4 years of effort and athlete and just who they are, and you're just going, we can't replace that. And the bottom line is,
kind of reminds you of that scene in Friday Night Lights, right?
Exactly.
Right. Okay.
Yep.
I just had to throw that in there.
Yep.
Right?
So you're watching this happen, and you're going, there's no way we can replace those guys. And what you realize is we're not going to be the same team. We're not going to win in the same ways.
Right.
But man, we have a really nice senior class this year. Yep. We're going to have to find new and better ways to do it. And then you have to start looking at your sophomores and your juniors and saying who can fit in where. Specifically with defense, you lose all 11 starters. We have a lot of really good athletes back. Yep. We've taken 3 or 4 really good high-end offensive guys, and we've now moved them to defense. And I think what we've done really well, and this is just a product of what I learned from a true mentor of mine and someone I love over at the University of St. Thomas, Wally Kuczynski, who's the defense coordinator there, is how do we get more athletic? So can we take a guy that was starting or a backup safety last year and make him an inside linebacker? Can we take an inside, outside D-line and now push some big bodies back over to offense? So that's kind of the mode we're going, without saying every move. That's kind of thought. And I feel really good about athletically where we're at in our defense.
Okay. All right. Good. That's good news for STA fans out there. So let's talk about summer practices. What has been your focus this summer?
So by rule, we're allowed 11 summer practices, and we ended up using 8 of them. You know, I'm a guy that says I don't, just because people say you can do this, doesn't mean we have to do all that. We probably both grew up in an era where there was no summer football. And I do believe football is one of those beautiful sports left where you don't have to do it year-round. It's not golf. It's not hockey where you need to be skating. It's like, if you give us a good athlete in 9th or 10th grade, we can find something for him. So we wanted to get our language down. We wanted to understand how to practice. We wanted to just get together as a team for these kids to understand who we are. After that, we got some offense and defensive end, and we made a very hard focus on saying, we're going to install this in June, we're going to install the same thing in July, and now we're going to do it again in August. So really what we did is we tried to pick up 3 installs because we're a brand new entity.
Yeah.
And that was the plan, and I felt like we got a lot of that, and every coach is going to say the same thing. I don't know how many times you're going to hear me say this. We stayed healthy for the most part, and that was our number one goal, is who do we have on that field August 14th? Not June and July.
Yep, for sure. So, any highlights out of that? Any surprises that you went, oh, that kid's getting a light bulb went off for him?
Yeah, and you know, it's the one thing I've learned from Coach Z and a lot of these high school guys. You got to understand that in high school, even more than college, 1 year can be major growth. I think the one, if you said put one on it, I'd say right now we moved Nico Vargas from corner to running back. And with what they were doing last year in defense, very singular. You're a man player on defense, and that's all you do. But he is a pretty dynamic runner. I remember talking to him in the offseason. He goes, Coach, I just grew up being a running back. Like, that's what I do.
Yeah.
And as soon as he touched the ball, we had 3 or 4 coaches come over and go, wow, we didn't see that, since he was holding the ball. So some people are just built to avoid people. Some people want to seek and go get people. And he is just so fluid in the way he runs. And if we can make 5 or 6 moves like that on each side of the ball, that can really help you throughout a season. And frankly, we wanted more depth at running back across the board.
So, okay, all right, that's great. So training camp opens Monday. I'll call it training camp. I don't know if that's what you're calling it or not, but so walk us through what that first week of camp looks like.
Yeah, so we were able to, they give us a practice window of 5 to 6 hours, and you can do a 2-hour practice, and then you got to give them an hour lunch break, and then you can come back and do a walkthrough. So we're going to be in and out in about 4 hours. We're going to meet in the mornings, we're going to practice for 2 hours, we're going to give them a little lunch, and then we're going to come back and we're going to walk through some special team stuff. Again, I know what the limits are. Our thing is about let's make sure when we're on the field, it's with speed, it's with intent. There's not a lot of standing around. If anyone wants to come to our practices, you'll see what we're trying to get out, and we want to be done in two hours. I don't want them here just to be here. So our thought is probably not a 2-a-day type program. We're going to be in and out. We're going to do a little walkthrough. We're going to get them out, get them home, and let them still enjoy fall camp. There's other things still to do.
Left of summer.
Yep,
right?
You got it.
Exactly. Okay. So what's the goal coming out of that first week? What are you hoping to accomplish?
How do we practice? How do we communicate? Can we stay healthy? The focus in week 1 is completely on us. The focus in week 2 then starts to become, well, we got a scrimmage coming up against Shakopee, against Lakeville South, against Forest Lake. So at that point, we at least have to start servicing each other to say, we're going to see some of this on a Saturday and get ready for that. But week 1 is just about us. Can we do what we need to do offensively, defensively, and special teams?
Okay. So during week 2, I know you and I talked about this before, you'll do an inter-squad scrimmage on Tuesday.
Yep.
What does that look like, and what's the outcome that you're hoping for?
Really, I look at it as you got your varsity, you got your JV level, and then you got your 10th grade level. And really what I want to do, of those 3 teams, no one's going to go over a half hour. Maybe they can each get 12 to 15 plays. If some of our starters can get just 8 to 10 plays of feeling live football again, that's it. Let's get them out. Let's be healthy. Let's work on transitioning on and off a football field. You know, let's work on the things that you don't always work on in practice. We're going to have officials there. So we're going to see flags flying. For the first time in my life, I'm not up in a box. I'm down on the field. I'm communicating with officials. What's our sideline protocols like? Are our kids able to stay back? Are we doing all those things? So those are all the things that I'm really excited for the first time for me to figure out, you know, at what level am I going to do this and how fast can I learn? But I'll tell you, it's great to have Mr. Walch here, Coach Walch here. Coach Rosga's in the building. They've officiated for a number of years. We got that viewpoint. I got Coach Z, who's been a head coach. We got Dan Schuster, who's been a head coach. So really learning and growing and taking a lot of feedback from the rest of the staff. And I'm all about critical feedback. I want to know what we can do better, and I don't mind hearing it.
Are you good with STA football fans showing up that night, or do you want to keep that to yourself?
No, STA. Well, so we're doing our pictures that night.
Okay.
We're doing our parent meeting that night.
Okay.
We're going to jam a lot into that night. We're going to get some football done. But we figured if the parents got to be here for the meeting, let's then knock out the pictures. Let's knock out the senior pictures so they're not in November or October when it's all cold. And then ultimately, let's get a lot of plays in.
Got it. Okay, sounds good. So for STA football fans, if you're in the area, you'd like to stop by, that'll be Tuesday, August 22nd, 7 p.m. It'll be right here in Jerry Brown Stadium. So on the Saturday following the scrimmage, or for the inter-squad scrimmage, you'll travel to Shakopee. You mentioned some of the teams that you're going to play already. Again, we'll invite our fans to that. That's on Saturday, August 26th, starting at 9 a.m. And that'll be at Shakopee High School, right?
Correct.
And then will that be on the varsity fields, or will they on the practice fields?
We've never been down there, and I'm still waiting to get some of that stuff. So I don't want to commit to a certain field at this point.
Okay.
That stuff will be posted on our Google Calendar.
Perfect.
But I do know, like I said, the competition will be good. And when you think about a scrimmage, you can't just say, well, these are teams that have won. You have to say Lakeville South, Power T, toughness. We're going to have to line up and be gritty and grind a little bit. Then we're going to see Shakopee, Flexbone, some spread, good, a little more athleticism. Then we're going to see Forest Lake, really deceptive, really rangy. So you're going, that's what you look for in a scrimmage, say, how much can our defense see in a very short amount of time? How much can our offense see? And is it the level of competition that's going to serve us well?
Yep. That is awesome. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in episode number 2, which will follow the inter-squad scrimmage. We'll do a little breakdown on that. So, final questions. I didn't prep you on this one. These are 2 burning questions I'm sure STA football alums are going to have. Is stripe or no stripe on the helmet? You probably don't even know what that means.
No, I know they got the white going down the middle.
Yeah, so for years we had the white stripe. You know, Coach O'Brien chose not to go with the white stripe, so I'll give you some time to answer that one on another episode.
Well, no, I can tell you right now.
All right.
As of now, we will go with what we did last year because that's the helmets we have.
Okay.
I'm not a big jersey decision guy. Helmet. It's like every coach has always said, in year 1, last thing you want to be thinking about is jersey. Just do what we do. We'll make those decisions as we go. But I do know this, as being a fan of the program and recruiting for a long time, I'm trying to figure out, they used to have these little, I don't even know what to call them, little white things, and every time really fast kids ran, it would just be like this. So, little towels. I want to get those back as long as they're MSHSL approved.
Yes, okay. So you kind of answered my second question. I was going to ask you about, are we going to return at some point to a traditional cadet blue? I've got on my royal blue. I can give you some time on that one if you want to.
It is amazing the split in the building based on your age demographic of what the belief on that should be. So
right, all right.
There's no doubt that I love the traditional because that's what I recruited for years.
Yep.
But hopefully, and I know Reed Horning's going to think, I said, don't even worry about jerseys until we figure out what we're doing. So
All right.
when that rotation comes through, we'll make a really tough decision.
About it, right? All right. Sounds great. All right, Coach. Thanks for taking some time to talk a little cadet football. I'm looking forward to doing this every week with you, and I'm looking forward to a great season as well.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And we'll be back in a couple of weeks after the inter-squad scrimmage. We'll break that down, and then we'll preview the scrimmage coming up at Shakopee. Thanks for watching, and go Cadets.